Edmond Dantes was a young sailor from Marseille, known for being honest, hard-working, and kind. Everyone at the port liked him, because he never cheated anyone, never talked rudely, and always did his duty with sincerity. When his ship finally returned after a long journey, good news followed him like sunshine. The owner of the ship admired Edmond so much that he decided to promote him. Edmond, who had started with nothing, was suddenly becoming a respected man. He was no longer just a sailor. He was about to become captain. And his happiness didn't stop there. Edmond was deeply in love with a beautiful Catalan girl named Mercedes. He had promised her marriage, and now that his future was secure, the wedding was finally going to happen. Their engagement brought joy to everyone close to them. Edmond's father, old and weak, was relieved because his son's future looked bright. But happiness, especially in a world full of jealous hearts, always attracts enemies. Among Edmond's companions was a man named Danglars. Danglars appeared polite, but was filled with envy. He believed Edmond didn't deserve promotion, and that he himself should have risen in rank. Another man, Fernand Mondego, carried a deeper bitterness. He loved Mercedes and wanted her for himself. Watching her choose Edmond felt like poison spreading inside him. On the surface, the world celebrated Edmond's good fortune. But in the shadows, his enemies smiled too. Because they were planning to destroy him. That very evening, Danglars and Fernand met in secrecy. Their plan was simple: accuse Edmond of treason. In those days, treason meant death or lifelong imprisonment. It didn't matter if the accusation was false. If the right people believed it, Edmond would be ruined forever. And so they wrote a letter. A single letter, filled with lies. And once that letter was sent, Edmond Dantes' life was no longer his own. Cliffhanger: the wedding day arrives. But fate arrives with soldiers. The day Edmond had dreamed of finally arrived. Mercedes was ready. Guests filled the house. Laughter and blessings surrounded them. Edmond looked at Mercedes with pure happiness, believing nothing could ever separate them. But just as the celebrations grew louder, the doors opened violently. Soldiers marched in. The music stopped. The smiles vanished. And in front of everyone, Edmond Dantes was arrested. Mercedes cried out, confused and terrified. Edmond himself couldn't understand what was happening. He had done nothing wrong. But the soldiers didn't care. They dragged him away, as if he were already guilty. Edmond was taken to a powerful prosecutor named Gérard de Villefort. Villefort questioned him carefully. Edmond spoke honestly, explaining he had carried a letter from his captain, as part of his duty. Edmond had not even read the letter properly. He had simply been loyal, doing what he was told. At first, Villefort seemed sympathetic. He almost believed Edmond. He even considered releasing him. But then Villefort read the names mentioned in the letter. And suddenly, his face changed. Because the letter connected to a secret that could ruin Villefort's own family. Villefort's father was involved in dangerous political activity. If this truth came out, Villefort's career and reputation would collapse. So Villefort made a cruel decision. He chose his ambition over justice. He pretended to help Edmond, but instead quietly destroyed him. Without trial, without proof, without mercy, Edmond was sent away. Not to any normal prison. But to Château d'If, a terrifying island fortress where prisoners were forgotten like dead men. Edmond was stunned. The wedding was over. The future was erased. He kept shouting, begging, insisting he was innocent. But nobody listened. Because in this world, innocence is often powerless. And Edmond Dantes, the man who once had everything, now entered a prison from which few ever returned. Château d'If was not just a prison. It was a tomb for the living. Surrounded by sea, guarded heavily, and built like a stone monster, it was designed to crush hope. Edmund was thrown into a cold cell. Time moved strangely there. The days felt endless. The nights felt heavier than the walls. Edmund waited for someone to correct the mistake, believing that justice would surely come. It never did. Weeks became months. Months became years. No one came to explain. No one came to release him. Edmund began to understand something terrifying: he had been buried alive. The loneliness made him sick. Sometimes he shouted. Sometimes he wept. Sometimes he sat in silence for hours, staring at the stone. His heart burned with questions. Why would Danglars hate him? Why would Fernand betray him? Why would Villefort, who saw his innocence, still send him here? Slowly, Edmund's bright personality disappeared. He lost faith. He lost peace. He even lost the will to live. At his lowest moment, Edmund decided he would rather die than suffer endlessly in darkness. But even death felt impossible. The prison wouldn't even grant him that escape easily. And then, just as Edmund began to believe his story would end inside those walls forever, he heard something. A faint scratching. A strange sound coming from behind the stones of his cell. At first he thought it was his imagination. But the sound came again the next night. And the next. Someone was digging. Somewhere behind the wall, another prisoner was trying to reach freedom, or trying to reach him. And suddenly, Edmund realized he might not be alone after all. Cliffhanger, the wall breaks, and a mysterious man appears. One night, the scratching grew louder. Edmund pressed his ear to the wall. And then, the impossible happened: the stones shifted. Dust fell. A gap opened. And through that gap, a man crawled into Edmund's cell. He was an old prisoner, thin and weak, but with eyes full of intelligence and fire. His name was Abbé Faria. Faria had been digging for years, trying to escape. But by mistake, he had dug into Edmund's cell instead. At first it seemed like bad luck. But in truth, it was destiny. Because Faria was not an ordinary prisoner. He was brilliant, educated, wise, and sharp. In the prison, he had become a teacher, and Edmund became his student. Faria taught Edmund everything: languages, history, science, mathematics, philosophy, strategy, and most importantly, how the world truly works. Under Faria's guidance, Edmund transformed. His mind became stronger than the prison walls. One day, Faria began speaking about Edmund's case. He asked questions. He connected small details. Slowly, he uncovered the truth. Edmund had been framed. Danglars wanted Edmund's promotion. Fernand wanted Mercedes. And Villefort wanted to protect his own secret. Edmund was innocent, but innocence had not saved him. This truth changed everything. Edmund's sadness turned into a cold determination. Years earlier, he had been an innocent sailor. Now, he was becoming someone else. And then, Faria revealed one final secret. Before being imprisoned, Faria had discovered the location of a massive hidden fortune, an unimaginable treasure buried on the island of Monte Cristo. He told Edmund the details carefully, like handing him a key to his future. Edmund listened, his heart pounding. Because now Edmund understood: if he ever escaped, he would not return as a poor sailor. He would return as a powerful man.